in power, whether red or blue. I could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country before it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country before it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country before it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country before it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone.
Well, good evening, everyone. It is that time again where I take a little bit of a break from what I'm doing, grab a cup of coffee, another cup of coffee, and we get together for what has been termed a late night coffee talk. Wow. This is a biggie, right? I'm a day late. I would have loved to have been with you guys last night, which Wednesday night, for those of you who don't know, is the normal night where I do such things. However, we had some big breaking news, and I wanted to share it with you. And I could not until today. Still had to be some discussion about really and truly what the implication of what we're going to talk about tonight is. And I'm going to tell you it. Uh, I tell you what, before I tear off into that, let me just kind of get the rest of this out of the way, right? Let's just get. I'm so anxious to tell you that I'm kind of skipping around a bit. So let me just take a minute and let's talk about. Let's take care of all of our little housekeeping stuff. First off, if you have an opportunity, go ahead and you're going to want to share this because you're going to want people to see this, whether you're watching it live or on the rebroadcast. Again, for those of you who don't know, if you just stumbled into this, my name is Daniel Miller. I'm president of the Texas Nationalist Movement, and this is my late night coffee talk, my midweek break where I grab a cup of coffee and visit with you guys, take your questions, talk about what's on my mind, and you guys can fully participate, right? So for those of you who do not know, you can drop your questions or comments in the chat on our YouTube channel. Additionally, you can do it on our Facebook page. Twitter does not aggregate over here, so if you're tweeting at me, I probably am not going to see it. So just hop over in our YouTube channel and do your thing. Additionally, tonight, I got last minute word that I've got some things that I can give away tonight. So be sure that you post your comments in the chat, your questions. Be sure to use hashtag Texit. That doesn't affect whether I see the question or not, but that does automatically enter you in to win one of the giveaways. And I'll do both of them at the tail end because I've just got way too much to talk about tonight. So before I get started and get back to where I was, I need to get my coffee now because I have a sneaking suspicion tonight is going to be more talk than coffee. All right. So let's get down to brass tacks. As you guys can tell, I am a little excited and taken aback a bit. And it is for me, sorry, I just happened to glance over at chat and I saw some Nimrod say, no, either get a statewide vote or stop talking about it. What do you think we're working on, you dimwit? Okay, sorry. Just, things like that in the presence of what I'm going to tell you tonight is just, it's just a little ridiculous, right? Somebody's myopic and very tiny, as you can tell. But here's what's interesting. In all of the years that I've done this, there have been some pretty pivotal moments in the fight for Texas, right? I mean, some real big moments. When we had the open floor debate at the 2016 Republican convention on the issue of whether or not to put it on the ballot, watching a floor debate at the largest political convention in the world in front of, media from all over the country, around the world, that was a pretty big moment. I mean, nothing like that had happened in a very, very, very long time. Then you get into, some other major pivotal moments when State Representative Kyle Biederman filed the Texas Independence Referendum Act. That was another huge kind of thing, right? I mean, these are history making things. Like, when you think about from the future looking back, those are things that are going to be written about, right? Those things are going to go down in the history books because they become pivotal moments in the fight for Texas, and people will reflect on those and say those were indications, things that were happening, that were moving forward. I think the addition of the two planks on the Republican Party platform this last summer, I think the Survey USA poll at 66%, I think those are going to be things that go down in history. But sometimes, and we know ultimately the vote itself, when we get the vote, that will be the thing everyone talks about, right? That will be the one that the history books really fixate on, the vote and the result. But there are times when things happen that are just it's an opportunity to rectify a more than century old mistake. and I know that some of you are thinking, okay, this is a ridiculous buildup, but I can't. I do that to just give you some understanding of kind of where I'm at on it, and the fact that I'm so blown away by what's getting ready to happen, and what that means for making our collectively mark in history is staggering. I mean, I think it's pretty doggone incredible. So that being said, one of the reasons that we shifted from last night to tonight, you guys know that as we have put the information about the live stream out there, promoted the live stream, we've talked about this is related to the Facebook lawsuit, and it is. This is all about the Facebook lawsuit, but it's suddenly not just about the Facebook lawsuit. That is going to be too small to contain what we're going to talk about tonight. So I preface all of this before I tell you with a little trip down memory lane. Okay, so many of you know that for years and years, we've had the opposition love to bring up the Supreme Court case of Texas versus White. And having vast majority of them not having read it, have no understanding about how it came about, what it actually entailed, what it actually said in Salmon P. Chase's, the Chief Justice Chase, his ruling in the case. And they obviously have no idea of what came after. But I think it's important to remember, because this is really going to be about Texas versus White. Really, I know some of you are freaking out. Just please be patient, because I want you to understand this as I understand this. But Texas versus White, we have debunked Texas versus White over and over and over. Many of you know that it's probably one of my favorite things in this fight for Texas independence that I love to do. I love nothing more than destroying these nimrods who love to hang on to Texas versus White as like the end all be all. And there are a lot of reasons. And I would encourage any of you that are unfamiliar with it to check it out. I write about it some in the Texit book. We've got multiple articles about it on the TNM website. If you go to texitnow.org, there's a few there. There's some in the news. I mean, there are many videos where I've debunked Texas versus White, and I'm not the only one, right? I'm literally not the only other one who has destroyed Texas versus White. Okay. In fact, if you go back a few weeks, we had Dr. Matt Quartrup. He's a professor from Coventry University. He's a constitutional lawyer. He's a constitutional law scholar. He foremost expert in the world on independence referenda, and he looked at Texas versus White, and he even people overseas understand that Texas versus White is garbage. But what many people fail to remember is that Texas versus White didn't actually start out as a case about whether or not states could withdraw from the Union. Okay. Some people don't realize that. It actually started as a case about bonds post-Civil War. And actually the entire setup for it tracks all the way back to the 1850 Compromise, where Texas sold off that part that goes way up into Colorado. And, the thing that ultimately, I think, was driven by the ancestors of the current waffle iron industry. That's a joke. I'm not being serious. But, the fact of the matter is it started in a case about bonds and ended up as an opportunity for Salmon P. Chase to retroactively rubber stamp the court's approval on the actions of the federal government during the war. Okay. Now, I'm not here to relitigate the past, but what I am here to do is give you some context to understand that on occasion, things that start out not being about self-determination become pivotal moments in a fight for self-determination, and Texas versus White was one of those. And it is, and I'm going to say this, and I want you to understand in all seriousness that this is not hyperbole. it appears that T&M versus Meta is about to be that very same thing. We know that Facebook and really big tech overall have been, how should I put this, hostile toward free speech. They have repeatedly engaged in viewpoint discrimination. They do not have any respect for freedom of speech. They use whatever coverage they get under federal law to really get by with whatever they want to suppress voices of dissent. And as we have found out with the Twitter files dumps, we have found out that, in fact, the governments, federal governments, and we don't know this for a fact yet, but probably state governments have engaged in utilizing big tech to silence dissent, to suppress voices that are opposed to the status quo. That's not my opinion. That is literally a fact. It has been proven. And I suspect that as the Facebook case goes along, it will be proven in a court of law that Facebook engaged in it as well. However, we know that, and you probably know that the T&M was the first entity, the first organization to sue under Texas, what we refer to as the Texas Anti-Social Media Censorship Law. And we have, and I'm not going to go into all the background of it. There's plenty of it out there. You can go read it on our website at tnm.me. But we did it not just because they were suppressing the texitnow.org links or it links to any issues related to Texas, but we really did it for everyone. Everyone here in Texas that has been censored, their viewpoints have been suppressed or censored by Facebook, where Facebook has chosen winners and losers, which speech is acceptable, which set of facts is acceptable. And so we went after them. We filed suit under the law. And the expectation is, as we sat down to discuss filing the lawsuit, the expectation was always that Facebook's lawyers would come at it and say that the Texas anti-social media censorship law is just flat wrong. They would try to drag it out. They would try to harass us. They would try to do all those sorts of things, really just attacking the substance of the social, that law that was passed by the Texas legislature. However, what they have done, and buckle up, if you have to go get your coffee or whatever, I hope you have it already, because this is about to get really fun. So the Facebook lawyers, you guys know some of the machinations. If you watch some of the videos, they have removed it to a federal court. They want to get it moved to California. We're going to fight both, try to keep it here in Texas and get it in state court. But it was a line in their most recent response that betrayed ultimately what their tactic is going to be. Now, we have known that Facebook is no friend of the freedom of speech. And it seems indeed that really what they ultimately want to attack, because they can't win on that front, is they want to attack your right to self-government. They're coming squarely at what we are doing in Article 1, Section 2. So I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to show you what it says, and then I'm going to unpack it for you and explain to you what it all means. Here in their introduction, plaintiffs, that would be us, wish to compel an out-of-state online service provider, that's them, to disseminate content promoting secession from the Union. In an ordinary case, the court could simply reject this law-defying request by dismissing plaintiff's petition under Rule 12b. And indeed, that will be the ultimate outcome. Now, the response goes on to deal with a bunch of the issues that they would normally deal with. We have to go to California, everything else. But their first shot across the bow was an assertion that what we are doing is illegal, and therefore they don't have to promote it, right? They're essentially accusing us of Texit being illegal, unconstitutional, whatever you want to call it, right? It was their shot across the bow without going too deep. But understand This means that the heart of the case, by the time this is over with in TNM versus Meta, will be your right to choose your government to alter, reform, or abolish in any such manner as you may think expedient. What we're looking at here, folks, is nothing short of a redo for Texas versus White. We are looking at the opportunity to go in absent any sort of political nonsense. We are looking at an opportunity, and I'm going to tell you right now, we are going to use this opportunity to utterly destroy and put a stake through the heart of Texas versus White once and for all. And let me tell you this, even if we give all the argument and the court comes back and says, oh no, it's unconstitutional, guess what? The assertion that we will make, and we will always continue to make, the assertion that we make in the Texit book that we've made as an organization is that independence is a non-justiciable issue. It is a political question and not a judicial question. And our right of self-government is not up for negotiation by a bunch of unelected, unaccountable federal judges. That's just not the way that it is. That's not the way it will ever be. And here's the beautiful part, friends. Every argument that we have ever had against Texas versus White is coming out in a court of law and in the court of public opinion. Because if you think for a moment that this is going to somehow skate under the radar, anyone who thinks that is sadly mistaken. Now, imagine this. We are going to be contending against a tech oligarch, essentially a propaganda arm of the federal government, Facebook. We're going to be fighting them, and their argument is that Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution is invalid. We're going to go out and we are literally going to be in a battle over it. And just imagine for a moment what this looks like. I mean, this is like the Scopes monkey trial kind of thing, right? Or this is Texas v. White all over. But they made this. They kicked this dog. We weren't going to go down this road. But as I instructed Paul to write in our response to the court, me quoting Doc Holliday in Tombstone, if that's where you want to go, then I'm your huckleberry. We are going to decimate Texas versus White. We are going to utterly grind the opposition under the treads of our tanks. I mean, figurative tanks, people, please. I don't need any kind of ridiculous nonsense. I don't need a strike on YouTube. Woo, right? But this is it is one of the most major things that happen. We literally had the conversation today. I had the conversation with Paul, our attorney, and I said, look, how does it feel to be making history? Because ultimately, this could go down in history. And all of this is playing out against the backdrop of our battle royale in the Texas legislature to get a referendum on Texas independence. So now the opposition, those in the legislature opposed to Texas independence, are effectively no different than Facebook. Birds of a feather flock together. And that's not company they want to be in. Not at all. This, friends, is going to be interesting. And let me remind you all, I know you're going to have tons of questions. Please post them in the chat or in the comments. We'll go through them. We'll take as many as we can. Additionally, if you'd like to email your question in, you can send it over to coffeetalk@thetnm.org. But friends, this is a big one. Our opportunity to put a stake through the heart of pretty much what the opposition has. And let's just take a look, right? Let's just take a quick look at what they have. Texas versus White. That's literally all they have. What do we have? We have the words of the founders and the framers, right? It's a federal constitution, not a national constitution, right? We're not a nation. The United States is not a nation. That's from the people who wrote the Constitution. That's not me. We have that. We have clear wording about the intent. We have, running up to Texas versus White, we've got the words of jurists, of politicians, of the government themselves, related to the right of states to withdraw. And then they have Texas versus White. But ironically enough, we also have other words written by Chief Justice Chase in Texas versus White, writing back to his old colleagues in the administration in Washington, D.C., back when he was Secretary of Treasury, right? And we have his words regarding why they should not try Jefferson Davis for treason. And this is what Salmon P. Chase said, not me, but the man who allegedly penned Texas v. White. He says, if you bring these leaders to trial, it will condemn the North. For by the Constitution, secession is not rebellion. Wow. So we have his words. Then, they have their Texas versus White, where he argues the fact that ultimately, somehow it's an indissoluble union, but then he gives you ways that it becomes soluble or dissoluble, right? And he gives you, so he's internally inconsistent. His linkage is the preamble to the Constitution back to the Articles of Confederation, essentially arguing that the Constitution is an amending instrument to the Articles of Confederation. And that's what they got. And that's where it stops. Because after that, what do we have? We have Jacobson v. Massachusetts, which even though it's, again, much like Texas versus White, not a case about secession, neither was Jacobson v. Massachusetts. It was a case about vaccinations. But what it says is that the federal government can derive no powers from the preamble unless explicitly given to them in the Constitution. And we know that Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution lists everything that states are forbidden from doing. We know that withdrawing is not one of them. And so therefore, under the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, any powers not granted to the federal government or delegated to the federal government by the Constitution and not forbidden to the states by the Constitution are reserved to the states and the people. And so then we know that Article 1, Section 2 in the Texas Constitution is in play. All political powers inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their benefit. And the people have at all times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their government in such manner as they may think expedient. And what else do we have? We have the fact that the United States signed the United Nations Treaty recognizing the right of self-determination. But if you say, so what? Treaties aren't worth the paper they're written on. We've got 75 years of the federal government sending our grandfathers and grandmothers and fathers and mothers and some in my generation and our sons and daughters to fight and bleed for the right of self-determination for other people. Upholding that right of self-determination. So not only do we have this thought or this idea that somehow the United States is bound under treaty law, they are bound by 75 years plus of precedent and the blood of those they sent to protect the right of self-determination for other people. So now that Meta's lawyers have decided to kick that dog, I'm your huckleberry. I will fight this all the way as far as it needs to go. But you see, it's simple. I want you to remember that all we asked for from Meta, remove the restriction on the links, pay our attorney's fees, give us an apology. They said that was a bridge too far. So now they decide they want to fire their shot over the bow and come straight at our right of self-government. Well, guess what? I'm going to fight you every day of the week and twice on Sundays. I mean, look, these guys are rooks. I've done this my entire adult life. I am girded up for battle. And I am going to absolutely enjoy dragging out every academic, every professor, every legal scholar, and bring everybody off the bench to fight these guys. And I'm going to tell you what, this case now has gone from just protecting your right of speech, your freedom of speech, your ability to express yourself, your freedom of expression, free of viewpoint discrimination. It's gone from us championing that to what we've been championing since day one. And that is your right to govern yourself according to the dictates of your conscience, to choose how you are governed and not have that choice made for you by someone that is not you. So the fight is on. And it cannot be overstated how historic this could turn out to be. Now, who knows? Maybe they back off, right? Maybe, just maybe, they choose not to go down that road. But unfortunately for them, the opening line in that statement, they kick the dog. And if that's the road they want to go down, Katie, bar the door. They are in for a fight. And so I want to just say thank you to every one of you out there who has gotten us to this far. Whether you've registered your support, which you haven't done, you should go do that. Has executed some membership, made a contribution, donated to the Legal Defense Fund, volunteered, helped us get signatures. Or if you're connecting with supporters now and other voters, if you're a leader, whoever it is, this is a team effort. Right? It's T&M and Daniel Miller versus Meta. It's not just Daniel Miller versus Meta. It's us. It is all of us. And we are going to be in this together. And yes, class action, friends, is still in play. So this is going to get way more difficult on them before it's all over with. So, I think as we get ready, as we are just literally days away from the start of the legislative session, I think it's important to remember that this effort is not the only effort that needs to be made, right? We've got a battle ahead of us in the legislature because, unfortunately for us, there are many in the Texas legislature who feel like Meta, like Facebook, that ultimately we're too stupid to govern ourselves. We're too stupid to manage ourselves. And so just like Facebook decides what we can say and not say, there are those in the legislature who believe that they know best, that we don't know how to govern ourselves. And so they are going to be resistant to giving us a vote on Texas independence, on answering the question of whether or not the state of Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation. So we're going to have to double down. But this is all encouraging news, folks. This is another sign that we are making tremendous strides, that we are closer than we have ever been to getting what we have always wanted: the basic right of self-government, to be able to create a brand new nation state on the earth, to have a Texas where ultimately we're the arbiters of our own destiny, where we get to choose our own border and immigration policy and our own military and defense policy and have our own currency and taxation policies. We have our own embassies and passports. We have everything that 200 other self-governing independent nations have around the world. We are so close to getting this done. And this is just a tremendous time for us. And I'm so excited that you're here and a part of it. It is rare when we're in the presence of history, and the air has a tendency to get a little thin. So here's to you. I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to have some coffee, and then I'm going to take your questions. Holy smokes, man, this is fun. All right. I got some questions. Let me do this as well. Before I get to these questions, let me check what's come in via email. Okay. All right. I got those queued up. All right. Let me get to some of your questions. Okay, let's go ahead and send some thanks out to Paul for his $100 super chat. Paul, thank you very much for that. Really do appreciate that. Super chat is active on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube or you don't want YouTube to take a cut, or Google rather, you can head over to tnm.me/donate. Paul, thank you very much for that. It is much appreciated and helps us continue to get the word out. Okay. Ooh, man, you guys are full of questions tonight. Okay, here's a question from Lauren. Lauren asks, what are Paul's thoughts on our prospects re the lawsuit? I mean, Paul and I have talked a good bit about this, especially in the last 24 hours plus. Look, I mean, if we felt like that this was Don Quixote tilted at windmills, we wouldn't do it. Right. I mean, there is obviously a path to victory for us. And it may be a long and winding path. But this being thrown into it changes the entire character of this. Everything related to this case suddenly has far more gravity. And so I think Paul is pretty excited about it. We'll have to get him on here. I think he's doing his live stream right now as well. I think he's on it from 8:30 to 9 or whatever. But be interesting to hear his. I think you guys probably should hear it from him. But I can tell you that he's pretty doggone excited. I mean, this is just insane. Okay. All right, here's a question about the Texas bill. Excuse me. And if you guys don't understand this question, it's about the Texas Independence Referendum Act, which is currently in Ledge Council, and we're waiting for it to get kicked out so it can get filed. Okay. But PB Lou says, will our Texas bill be filed in Texas House and Senate as companion bills? That's what we're working on, right? We've got a list of reps and a list of senators that we're working on for this, and we would hope to have it filed in both. But here's the thing, nothing's done until it's done. So you should all be talking to your reps and your senator, right? Talk to your rep, talk to your senator, let them know. You can go to the website, go to tnm.me and download the bill. You'll get a pop-up there. It'll be there. Download it so you can have your copy of it. Okay. All right. Jeff says, how do we move forward when the current Texas government is just part of the problem? We've talked about that one a lot. So I'm guessing from your question, how do we advance the issue of Texas? Okay. So one thing to bear in mind is the Texas issue cuts pretty doggone weird. And Texas government is not monolithic. We have allies in there, and those allies would not be ones that you would probably think traditionally would be in favor of this, right? So that is a byproduct of being really professional and really smart and doing all those things that we have done over the years to prove that we're not just some fly by night, started this thing up in a garage, just a bunch of angry people, right? I mean, we've built credibility at the Capitol. And sure, there are people that hate us, the Jeff Leaches of the world, the Justin Hollins, the whatever that other guy is, Jared something. I can't remember his name because that's how little he matters. But interestingly enough, they're kind of the outliers. So we're going to continue to work this. But the thing that makes this move, and if you go back to that webinar that I mentioned where it was Dr. Quartrip and I, the bottom line, even from his perspective of having worked with so many independence movements around the world, is if your government is a windsock, be the wind. And so that really is up to each of us. We have to get super active, super loud. And I say we are, right? But everyone needs to, right? If you haven't registered your support, go do it. If you haven't volunteered, go do it. If you're not helping us connect with Texas voters, go do it. If you're not calling your rep, go do it. If you haven't called your senator, go do it. If you haven't downloaded the bill, go do it. We make all the tools and the resources available, and all the opportunity is there. And there is a something to be said. I mean, it says all political power is inherent in the people. Therefore, the larger the group of people, the more political power they wield. That is pure Article 1, Section 2. So there you go, Jeff. Thank you. Joe says, will the judicial proceedings be broadcast via TV or internet? Probably not. And right now, it's a lot of paperwork back and forth. So, no, nothing exciting there. All right, let me come over here really quickly. Be sure to get your questions in, folks, because, okay, here we go. Here is an interesting question. David, this is via email. David asks, has Texas completed the supposed transfer of Texas portion of gold from the U.S. government control to the Texas Gold Depository? Okay, so a little background. So many years ago, we helped get the Texas Gold Depository Act across the finish line. Okay. It was something that we worked hard on. We mobilized lots of support for it. When it passed, we were super excited because it is an economic nationalism issue, right? Why are we storing gold reserves owned by the Texas government in banks or depositories outside of Texas? So we were all over it. Additionally, as part of that bill, it called for the creation of a system of electronic transactions denominated by deposits in the depository. So it went through this process. Some people were possessed of the idea that somehow this depository was going to be built overnight. It was not. Additionally, once it was constructed, retrofitted, whatever the case may be, you had to get it contracted out to have someone actually run the depository, which was done. That you had to go through that process, and that took a long time. In the meantime, the gold itself was not actually under U.S. government control. I mean, I guess theoretically you could say it was, in the sense that anything that you have in a U.S. bank or in storage in a U.S. bank is under U.S. government control. But technically, what most people were talking about was that I think it was about $1 billion of gold reserves held by the University of Texas, right? Which, again, a government entity. So the big issue, as far as I understand, had been whether or not how they were going to get that gold out and then transport it here. And that was there was a big debate about that. My understanding is, and I cannot speak about this 100% because it's been a while since I've dug into it and been presented with any of the information about it. But my understanding is that rather than transport the gold, the UT system actually liquidated the gold. They pulled the cash out with the intention of reinvestment of the precious metals into the depository. So I don't know where that is. We can dig a little bit and see if we can find out, but I just don't know an answer about that right off the top of my head. Okay, let's see what we got here. Yeah, all right. Back over here to these questions. All right, there's a super chat. Eric, thank you very much for your super chat. Really, really, really do appreciate this. Man, it's super helpful. You guys have been just phenomenal. You helped us out with our end of year fundraising. You did a phenomenal job. It's gonna cost money to get this lawsuit stuff going. As we at each stage of the game, it's going to get a little more costly. But that's what they think. They think they'll just dip into their war chest and bury us. Okay. Stacy Pauly asks, do you think the feds will make Meta drop this in order to prevent us from getting exposure on the issue after seeing this video? I don't know. I don't know what the feds are going to do, but here's the deal. I mean, the suit is the suit, right? And at this point, they have rejected our settlement offer. And our settlement offer came before the drop of the Twitter files that proved definite direction and collusion between big tech and U.S. intelligence agencies and the Department of Justice and the FBI and even the DNC, right? And so that settlement offer is off the table, right? That's not, they rejected it. More information came out, and it's not even in the running. So I don't know what they could throw at us that would make us drop the lawsuit. I just don't know what offer they could make, especially given the fact that they have now signaled their intention to go after the right of self-determination, Article 1, Section 2. Okay, here we go. Uncommon News says, man, that, you know what? That lower third is more than a third. Like, I'm having a peek over like Kilroy. This is crazy. Uncommon News says the federal government has obviously acted in bad faith towards their oath and commitment to upholding the U.S. Constitution. Could we force them to pay reparations upon taxing? You know, if you haven't figured it out yet, no one really forces the federal government to do anything, you know, where that's concerned. I mean, you can, to a certain extent, paint them into a corner and get them to do things, but, you know, reparations, that's not anything we need to contend with. Look, we need to be free of them. We need to have tough as nails people at the negotiating table to deal with the negotiated issues. And by the time that's all over with, you know, we'll have some resolution on that, but ultimately the ability to engage in you know, our ability to operate as a self-governing independent nation, free of control and domination of Washington, D.C. is all the reparation I need. And I think the people of Texas are going to feel pretty much the same way, but it is a good thought, right? There's been people discussing, you know, whether or not they can make us pay an exit fee, which we know they can't. I mean, we've already heard from Dr. Q and some other people on that. It's just not something they can do. However, maybe we charge them an exit tax. Maybe we just get to be such pains in the butt during the exit process that they're like, okay, here, take some money and go away. Okay, Deborah says, we have reached out to our local reps and they don't support it. What more can we do to get through to these people? Gather as many people in that person's district as possible and start hammering them. I mean, just start on the issues. Like, look, it's not yours to support, right? I don't care if you support Texas or not. At a minimum, you have to support our right to vote on the issue. You build that critical mass inside of their district, and then they start to listen. Look, as an organization, we're doing all kinds of things right now. We've got major campaigns spinning up in many of these districts to identify brand new supporters to help do just that. But if you're in a district and your rep doesn't support it, go meet with them. Go have the conversation. Go meet with their staffer. There is a video and a guide that we have on the website that talks about how to effectively advocate for the Texas independence referendum. And I'm going to tell you the thing that is the worst to do is to go in cold or not going cold, go in hot, right out of the gate. They don't know you. They don't know anything about you. They don't know your issue. You come in, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I know some people are, and you're coming in hot. That is the easiest way to get them as a hard no on your issue, right? But, you know, gather up a bunch of people. Gather up as many people in that district as you possibly can. I don't care who it is. You know, friends, family, you gather up a bunch of people and you descend on their district office and say, we want to have a conversation about this bill because we want to vote on it. Not, you know, hey, you know, we're going to kick your butt out. You know, that there'll be a time for that later, but you start with having the conversation. Then you move on from there. Okay, man, you guys are full of questions tonight. Okay, Vortex Shielder asks, when the first generation, you and I and all in between, have dual citizenship, that by itself should solve many problems. I don't know. I mean, I think ultimately that is going to be a question for the people of Texas. I talk about this some, or have in the past, that a function of that transition period, excuse me, may be this issue of dual citizenship or the rights of U.S. citizens in Texas and Texas citizens in the U.S. Excuse me. Ultimately, we want the transition to be smooth, right? No one is advocating for some kind of jerky, like abrupt separate. I mean, we want out as quickly as we can, but there's an orderly way to go about it. And so part of that discussion will be around U.S. citizens and Texas citizens who live in both places. And if you want a good example of that conversation, go look at that. Go look at the Brexit transition period, where that was something that was on the negotiating table. What are the rights of EU citizens inside the UK and UK citizens that are living inside the European Union, and what does that overlap look like? We know as it stands now, officially the federal government doesn't really recognize dual citizen, but it's not like they don't recognize. I mean, they don't recognize it, but they don't penalize it either, right? It's really bizarre how they deal with it. So plenty of people have dual citizenship, and ultimately, if that's what people want to do, that I think is going to be up to them. But the other factor in this is when Texas decides what types of citizenship it has, right? What the people of Texas have to say about that. The people of Texas may be super opposed to the concept of dual citizenship, and I think there's potentially some merit there in those discussions. But it'll ultimately be something that's left up to the people of Texas to decide. Thankfully, I'll get to participate in that discussion and debate, and then I will be one voice among many on how it turns out. I don't have to ultimately make that decision. Okay. Hey, just a reminder as we're getting ready. I mean, I think we're about 12 minutes out from the end of this thing. Be sure if you're commenting, you're sending questions in, use hashtag Texit. You know what hashtag Texit is, right? Use hashtag Texit. Going to do 2 giveaways here at the tail end of the broadcast tonight. There's some really cool mystery bags of swag, right? T&M and Texit swag that we're going to get to you guys, and they're mystery bags. Kara came to me and said, we're going to get you. Do you want to give away something tonight? I said, always love to give things to our folks. Although tonight I am giving everyone a front row seat to making history. But if we want to give away some random bags of swag too, that's fine. And so she says you have to. So, post your question, your comment with hashtag Texit, and we'll do that draw at the tail end of it. Lauren wants to know, this is a repeat. Lauren wants to know, what is the current trend in terms of TNM membership and or support pledges on the website? It's been really good. I will tell you, I ran the numbers, and I want to say that our average, starting about 6 days ago, registered supporters, that our average jumped by about 20 times, maybe not quite 18 or 19 times. So, and I fully expect that even that number to double. But yeah, the trends are there. And a lot of that is attributed to we're through the holidays, but beyond that, we're doing a tremendous amount of marketing right now in communications. Today I was on another interview today, was on one earlier this week. We're doing a ton of digital promotion right now. Radio and billboards are about to be back in play. Plus, we're about to really strike out on some serious field work. I had an interview today, not a recorded interview, but a meeting or a discussion with someone that we're bringing into the national leadership team that has, through their efforts out there in the field, has been responsible for 61 campaign wins. Not to mention the fact we're bringing a retired colonel onto the advisory board. I mean, there's a ton of things happening, but the trend is definitely, it's to the moon right now. It's very exciting stuff. All right. Let me check the email one more time, and we'll see if we can't plug something out. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right, I think we got them all. All right, I like that. I like when we're all super efficient. We get our questions in. I will take a second and I will peruse here. Yeah, I see what Reg said. Buckle up, buttercups. That is the truth. Yeah, and let me go ahead and say this too. A big thank you to all of our social media warriors out there who are amplifying, promoting the message, sending everything out, retweeting everything we're doing. And by the way, let me know how you guys are liking the new videos that we're doing. The TNM, and I mean we're jamming those things out left and right. We got a whole nother flight of them coming. But let me know in the comments how you like that. But this is what I was going to say. For those of you that are engaged in that social media battle and you're amplifying our message and you want to be part of the organized effort, we have relaunched something that we had many years ago called the Online Response Corps. And yes, the acronym is ORC, right? We refer to them as the orcs because the only way you beat a troll is with an orc, right? But the Online Response Corps, I would encourage you, if you are active on social media, any of the social media channels, obviously the primaries, and you want to be part of that organized effort, head over to tnm.me/ORC. That's tnm.me/org. Let's get you on the Online Response Corps. You get to see a lot of cool stuff first. So, all right. What do you say? Let's do the draw. Okay. And then I'll wrap up with some final thoughts after that. All right. Oh, you know what? Here we go. Boom and boom. All right. You guys ready for the giveaway? I'm going to give you just another couple of seconds here. If you have not, you need to comment either on YouTube or our Facebook page with hashtag Texit. Get your entry in because it is now time to draw. All right, here we go, friends. In 3, 2, 1. You know, if it picks me again this time, I'm going to be really upset because it just means it's playing favorites. Stacy Pauly. All right. Not only did you get a question answered, you also got a random bag of swag, TNM swag. So be sure to drop your information to coffeetalk@thetnm.org. Let us know where you want us to send that to. All right, and here's for the final. Are you ready? Here you go, folks. One more time. Drum roll. Hey, all right, Manny Chapa. Congratulations, Manny. You get the second bag of random TNM and Texas swag. And congratulations. All right. And my understanding is that we're going to be doing that a little more often. So you guys seem to like it really well. And we want to thank you for being a part of what we're doing here. Okay, well, friends, it is just about time to wrap this bad boy up. So I'm going to leave you with these final thoughts. You know, I could have talked about there are a lot of things going on. Obviously, this dead run toward the legislative session. You know, we've got so many things on the horizon, whether it's an event that is getting ready to be announced at the Capitol, be a biggie. Whether it's going to be the fact that there is the potential for a Texit documentary in the works, whether it's an impending announcement of a convention or the expansion of our local groups, or you know, any number of things. I mean, just the progress that we're making on this issue across all fronts. But tonight needed to be its own thing. And I say that again, not to overemphasize or exaggerate the importance of what's happening, or to even, as some have accused us, trying to justify why we're even suing Facebook at all. I believe why we're suing them is evident, right? Especially, you know, the fact that they could muzzle us at a time where it really, really, really mattered, right? Think about this in the context of trying to pressure legislators or spin up support in their districts, or Let's say, we get it on the ballot and we're in the middle of a campaign and Facebook decided to do this very thing. They did it to Chad Prather during the governor's race, 8 days before the election. They deplatformed him. They suspended his account. and so it could happen. But beyond just why that suit had to be filed as part of a long-term strategic vision, it has now taken on a very important, I think it's going to occupy a very special place when the history of Texas is written, the history of what we do or doing right now. And I will tell you, this is the way that I approach it. How do we ultimately want to be remembered by future generations? Any of you who have heard me speak, particularly out there on the campaign trail back when I ran for lieutenant governor, you've heard me talk about that. How do we want future generations to remember us? And here we are in the midst of this fight in the legislative session, right, where we're just simply trying to give Texans the ability to vote on the Texas issue, to choose our path forward. And here we are now in a battle that could fix 100-plus-year-old mistake. A battle really and truly that is for even just the idea that we have the right to choose how we are governed. It is like, it's not that we're fighting a war on two fronts. It really is ultimately, in my mind, the same battle. The battle for the heart and soul of Texas, a battle for the future of Texas. Really, it's existential, because how we do now depends on whether or not future generations will know Texas as we know Texas, whether they will know the principles of freedom, of liberty, of independence. It really is for all the marbles. And I can tell you that there's nowhere else in this world that I would rather be than right here fighting this battle alongside you. So thank you all very much. Before I finish up, I'd like to remind everyone, if you are in Cold Spring, anywhere near that area, come on out. I will be speaking there. I believe it's Tuesday. But check out the events calendar, tnm.me/events. That's tnm.me/events. Also, if you have not already pledged your support for the TNM and Texit, head over to tnm.me/vote. That's tnm.me/vote. Become a member, tnm.me/join. Head over there to the website, click the join button, another way to get there, and be sure you volunteer, right? We need all hands on deck. Let's go win this thing. And by the way, I just want to remind you, we are already working on looking for people who want to run for office in the next cycle. The next election has already started. If you think it starts much later than that, you're wrong. It's already started. So if you'd like to be one of the 100-plus candidates that pledged their support in the last cycle, if you're interested in running for office, head over to taketexasback.com. Check it out. We want you to be a part of that Texian army that is going to help us take Texas back. All right. Game on, folks. That is going to be a wrap for tonight. I want to thank you all for being here tonight, sharing this cup of coffee with me, and really sort of basking in the glow of history making. It is a phenomenal time to be alive and a phenomenal time to be a Texian, and just very excited about what is happening next. So I will leave you tonight with the words that I leave you with every single solitary night. Well, every time we're together. Not every night, but every time we're together. They're not my words. They're the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now, and the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.
If you feel you've no real voice, and at the polls there's no good choice, and the best is a lesser evil, just who It is time for a real change. Instead of voting more of the same, only one solution restores the power to you. When Texan rights have been impaired, and it's gone on for many years, there's only one way left to correct it. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texas. July the 4th, we celebrate an exit of the United States from a British Empire that denied them representation. Yeah, and history repeats, they say. Britain's past became their fate when a Brexit vote restored Britain's status as a nation. When the Constitution is ignored, state sovereignty thrown overboard, and all attempts to restore it have been rejected. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texas.